last client we had, with a smoking issue, okay, where smoking was this, smoking was that, it's going to be my life. So we look at a contrast principle, okay. We looked at a lot of pressure a client putting on, especially with weight loss. Weight loss seems to have that phenomena. Okay, so let's look at this phobia of spiders. That's all you know? Take it away.
So you got phobia of spiders.
Yes.
Thank you, Scott, for coming in. Thank you, Scott, for coming in today. So you've got, I can remember chatting to you on the phone the other day, and you have a phobia of spiders.
Yes.
Cool. If we were to look at it, just categorize it, just so as I've got it clear in my mind, on a scale of 1 to 10, whereas 1, I don't really mind it, 10 is literally run out the room screaming, how would you rate your phobia of spiders?
If I saw one in my house, a 10 straight away.
Okay. What happens if you didn't see it?
The thought of it, if I see one on TV, it's probably about a 7 or an 8. But even sometimes the thought about it, if I sit there and dwell on the thought, it can be as high as a 7 or 8 as well.
Because that's quite interesting, I think. Because the one thing that I know about spiders, or about phobias in general, is that with a phobia, it's not normally the thing that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's the thought of the thing that is the problem. Because if I was to think about now, or if I was to ask you to think about a spider, you'd start getting sweaty palms, and you start thinking, you breathe heavy and all that sort of thing. And the fact is, there's no spider here.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you still think on that. So, but thinking that aside, how does it impact your life?
Well, I live next to a big forest, and we get a lot of spiders coming on to the driveway at the front of the house, and just even the thought of maybe having one in my car, or I'm worried one's going to drop on my shoulder when I walk outside. It almost the point where it keeps me inside my house.
Has any of that ever happened?
No. I've heard friends talk to me about it, and that was enough to freak me out. I couldn't even listen to the stories.
Really? Because I've heard, there's many things that I hear, and sort of I've got this friend that does everything, and when I first ever came to Australia, because I'm not from here, I had a friend that told me, black and blue, that there were things called drop bears,
mm-hmm.
that are like cool. They're apparently koala bears that jump out of trees and eat you alive.
Yes.
I found that quite amazing, and I looked at him, and even the guy that he was with went, "Oh no, they're true, and I can remember it." And I know a friend that happened to him, and the strange thing is with all of that is, that sort of none of that really sort of happened. But the thing that I'm most curious about is you've heard your friends talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes you think that what they're telling you is true?
Well, even if it's not true, just even the possibility of it it scares the hell out of me.
So what part of a spider is it, or what? How often do you think of being afraid of spiders?
How often do I think about it?
Yeah.
Well, if I see it on TV, I instantly think about it. If I walk outside and I see one on the driveway, it's all I think about all day, and then I'm scared to come home just in case it's still there. I can't even step on them. I'm that scared to go near them.
Okay. So, that's okay. It's fine. And also, can I just say that's a really good thing, because killing spiders isn't really the best thing in the world to do, because I don't like flies, and spiders don't like flies either. So I'm in their camp on that one, really, because So anyway, that's the point. One thing. So if you're afraid, being afraid of spiders is it's not the best thing in the world. How does it impact you? So apart from making you think about them all day, how else would it impact? How would it not impact your life?
Say that again.
How would getting rid of your fear of spiders, or your fear of anything, impact your life?
How would get rid? I just don't want to think about it.
Have you tried?
Well, I wouldn't really know how. It's just when it happens, it happens.
That's right. You wouldn't know how, would you?
No.
Because perhaps what you've always done is not knowing how, but perhaps by not knowing how, you perhaps know how.
Excellent. And pause right there. Excellent.
Yeah.
Beautiful job. So how was that for you? A little bit more of a tricky one. We'll talk about why that is in a moment. How was that?
It started off clunky, as normal. I then sort of tried to go back into the old NLP sort of way of doing it. That's how I went into, it's the thought of a spider, not the actual spider that's a problem. Trying to reiterate to you that it's not a spider that's a problem. You then said about your friend told you about, I get frightened about things dropping on me. And now I went, perhaps, has it happened? That's always a good one. So I asked you that one and no, and then it carried on a bit. It sort of started to get a bit more free flowing, and then at the end I felt sort of it felt at the end I was in commanding position.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right. So what do we know so far?
He's got a fear of spiders.
Yep. Yeah, we know that. How has this fear come about? What's the one thing that he keeps reiterating to you?
He keeps reiterating it's from his friend. It's not anything that I think he hasn't really explained the root cause, but then I didn't really probe the root cause. Mm-hmm.
Even if you drop the idea of root cause, remember, I don't want to be focused on trying to find out, the root cause or anything like that. Exactly. What's the one theme he keeps reiterating whenever he talks about spiders?
He keeps reiterating that it's keeping him in his house, and it's not.
So that's the end. That's a possible end result, and the possible end result he's come up with is because of this one thing he keeps reiterating. And very common with clients, extremely common with clients. Not just for phobias, could be addictions, weight loss, smokers, whatever.
It is so. Oh, welcome back to the 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's important.
Oh, how I love
that way this. You'll never forget it.
It's not anything, and it's not emotion. So shush.
Yes, definitely not emotion. We covered that one. What's the one thing we do as human beings we are so good at but do too much of? Think. Now, hasn't this person said that every time I think about it or even the thought of it,
yes,
even going outside my house and then thinking I'll come back home and it's still there?
Yes.
So what could we say could be the correct door to open in order to find out what's really going on? Do we worry about the spider or are we going to worry about something else?
I'm going to worry about what he's thinking.
Yeah. What's up with his thinking?
Yeah,
Okay. So to break that and find out really what's occurring, it's to use his the spider thing almost becomes a metaphor at that point. It's almost we get to the point of saying, what are you more scared of? Is it the fact of seeing the spider or the very thought of having seen the spider?
Yes.
Okay. Now we could assume if we were gonna play this, and was that anything overly hypnotic? No, because we're not even starting yet. Okay. We could teach our clients, it's about thinking. We do too much thinking of this. Maybe you should just stop thinking. But when it comes to that, I'm now teaching and telling my client what to do, and clients don't come to me to be taught something. Okay. So if we were going to, let's say you ask that question, it might be any old fact. You might just say, so what is the issue? Is the issue with your thinking about the spiders, or is it the issue with the spiders themselves? What's the issue here? Because I'm not quite following. And he says, well, it's just the thought that really gets to me. Okay, take it away from there. That's the last thing you've heard from me. Let's just see where we go from now.
So it's the thought that gets to you?
Yes.
In what way do you think in what way does that thought, in what way are you thinking on it?
Even trying to role play this is difficult because that's a weird question. So it's a good question to ask. Just going to role play this. No, this is a good thing. See what happens when this is important. Let's bring this up. What's occurring right now. So for me, is playing the role play. The very fact of asking me to think of how thoughts impact me is almost an impossible question.
Yeah, you've got to go inside. You've got to explain, because I don't know your thought processes, so I have to figure out what you've got. And the fun thing is, from my point of view, is you don't know how your thought processes run either, because you've got to go then internally.
What is a thought? What is it? Can't explain it. You can't hold it.
No.
So the very fact of making me consider, just even the role play about trying to explain what's going on is sort of spinning me out just a little bit. Okay, so I will digress and try and play with this a little bit. So you asked me something like, how does the thought impact you, or something like that? Was that the question you asked?
Something like that. I can't remember.
Let's make it nice and natural. So let's say the last thing I've said to you is, it's the thought of the spider that is getting to me.
So it's the thought. So how, when you do these thoughts, how do you actually think?
I think they're just scary, they're big, and they're creepy, and they just make me feel all gross.
So even the small ones are big.
Well, just spiders in general.
So it's a general. So realistic. So you've got. I'm going to try and just rein you back just a bit, because I'm a little bit. I'm a little bit stupid today, I think. So really, the generalization of a spider, the way you're thinking on them. So all spiders are big and terrifying.
Yes.
Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes.
Really? So they're all big and terrifying. Okay, that's fine. That's interesting. So what is so wrong in that?
Just I don't like them.
So you don't like them?
No.
Okay. So what would happen if you thought in some other way?
Excellent. Pause right there. Okay. So good so far. So what's occurred just with that question right there? So I'll repeat it just so you can hear it. So what would happen if you thought other ways? It's a good question, but what is it starting to do?
I'm trying to guide him, and I can't.
Can you see how it's small? It's tiny. It's a good question.
It was.
But now you're saying the thought's the issue, which it is. But I need to come up with that as the client. Remember, I need to be saying something like, "Oh, it must be my thoughts that are screwing me up."
Yeah.
Because now you're saying, can you, what would happen? Any sort of what would happen question. It's not that they're bad questions. And again, I don't want to say we can't say them, but we have to think of the direction in the question. Instead of going towards the outcome, what do we like to do? We like to go down into the for quote unquote here, the thought itself.
That's fair enough. I love being wrong.
So how could you take that and in almost drill down into the very fact that there's something wrong with my thinking? And you can hear probably what's going to happen with this conversation is what with this client is because you're saying things about spiders, this, spiders, that, thinking. This conversation is going to go around in a circle because you're right on the edge. Remember, we know when we're right on the edge of doing something really, really well, or at the right point to be really hypnotic, or almost send them into that unconscious moment, is when the conversation starts going around in a circle. So it's a good cue to let you know you should do something hypnotic.
So is it always spiders?
Yes.
Yeah. So nothing else you're frightened of?
Not that I can think of. It's just spiders.
Just spiders, because they're big and they're terrifying and they will eat you alive.
Yes.
Okay. So if I had a spider in another room, how would that affect you?
Just the thought about it and you telling me would freak me out. So let's pause right here. So we're back on the spider issue, knowing that it's his thoughts that are probably the issue. It's the thought about the spiders that's the issue. But remember, the initial cause is there something wrong with his thinking?
Yeah, and I've got it from
okay. And you'll end up getting to the same place anyway. Remember, all roads lead to Rome anyway. But we're now on that. The conversation will start going around in circles because as you're about to do something hypnotic, what is he going to do consciously? The conscious mind's going to get its back up and try and catch you doing something because it knows you're right on the edge of getting past.
Yes.
Okay. It's almost like he can see you creeping up in the distance, but he's not sure you're going to come from the left or the right. So he's crouched down. He's ready to grab you. Now, how are you going to slip past him in regards to this thinking thing that he's talking about?
I am going to, what am I going to do? Good question. That's actually probably the highlight question of the day.
Yes.
What the heck am I going to do?
Yeah, so I'll give you this statement I've last given you, okay, which is it's just the thought of the spiders I don't want. Let's just play with that.
Yeah, okay, just the thought of the spiders that I just don't want. I'm not going to talk about that. I want to do you think about anything else in the same way?
Okay, so keep it right where he is. Okay. Regardless of whether he's thinking about other things another way becomes regardless. Remember what he said to us right now, which is the very thought of the spiders. So how could you play around with this thought? What does this person ultimately want? Let's pick it apart. What does he want?
Get rid of the spider phobia.
Yep, get rid of the spider phobia. What's the reason he's got the spider phobia?
He's got bad thoughts of them.
Bad thoughts. So would you try and get rid of the bad phobia spider? Phobia for the spider phobia? Or would you try and help him with his thinking about it in the first place?
Try and help his thinking, because his thinking get rid of the phobia.
Yep. It's like a client saying, I think I'll never quit smoking.
Yeah.
Okay. So how could you play with his thinking to unstick it? Because right now his thought loop is going in one direction.
Yeah.
It is thought of spiders, bad. Thought of spiders, bad. Thought of spiders, bad.
Bad thought of spiders.
Bad thought of spiders.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Spiral loop. Have you ever thought that it's? I want to try and say something light. Have you ever thought of it in a different way? But
remember, that's still directing it, towards out.
That's directing it. I don't want to do
that.
Hang on. Oh, I've got to. I would say I'm getting up, but I'm not using the book now. I'm going into shaking stuff down because I can remember this in the back of my head. Something is telling me that we have done this before, but something is definitely arcing up.
Good.
It's getting possibly. No, it's got to be less than 4. It's got to be.
Let's backwards rationalize this. What do we want to tell this client about their thinking? Basically, we could assume we just want to tell them, look, it's your thoughts that are screwing you up.
Yeah.
But how could you say that without saying it? That's the key. Remember, we can give advice, but it's advice backwards. It's giving it without saying it. That's a skill in itself.
It's as if what I want to do is I want to give them a question that the answer is my thinking's corrupt. That type of thing.
That's exactly what you need to do. You need to perform, or you need to give a question where the very answer he needs to hear comes out as a result of the question.
Exactly.
I mean, that's not confusing at all, just listening to that.
No, that's right. But I know. Absolutely. But that's the thing. And
how do we do it?
I'm a bit lost, which is good.
It's all right. So we're going to play with this. This is an interesting point to be at. And again, this is not easy. Not at all.
No.
Okay.
So
what would you like to tell this client? You give me your words. What would you like to tell them? If I could say, look, you can tell this person one bit of advice and they'll love you for it, what would you tell them about their thinking without too many words?
It's bad.
Yep. So your thinking's bad.
It is not serving them a purpose.
Excellent. So how could you say that, but in a more hypnotic way?
I could be a real kid. I would say it slower, and it is very bad. You're thinking. No.
Too direct. Okay. Do you want me to give you an example of what I mean, and then we can pull it apart and see which way you go with it as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, this is just one way. If I know his thinking is the issue, I might we could just say something like, so I guess you're here today to find a new way of thoughts that don't involve thinking.
Oh, yes.
Or are you here today to have all that thinking from thoughts you haven't come up with so it actually seems better?
Yeah.
Now, what I'm saying right now is rubbish, okay, consciously. But what I'm basically telling him is you're thinking the wrong thoughts, or you're here today to adjust your thinking, or we should just concentrate on your thinking. And we can start to drill this in. So I'll give you an example. We can start to monologue this. So he'll be sitting looking at us, and we could say something like, so just to be clear, we're here to find out all those thoughts you haven't thought yet. right? And he'll go, what? Well, think about it. If all that thinking in the past has done nothing to you than the bad thoughts you've had, we just have to think of new ways to think that aren't those thoughts. Can you see how I'm just drilling around thinking thoughts?
Yeah.
Why am I using those two words? It's because it's something he's presented to me over and over and over and over. So they almost become like hot words.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, yes, I'm putting layers of confusion on it because remember, I have to break through that bubble. I need that to stop that thought loop. I need him to look at me and go, what? Because right now, all he's thinking is spiders. Because why? We've been talking about it.
Yeah.
Now, I need him to be saying, what are you talking about? Well, consider it. If your thoughts were everything but the way if your thoughts were every way but the way you've been thinking, that's got to be something, right? And we're just playing with dipping him into the unconscious moment. Okay? So I'm going to give you another statement very similar, and let's just see what you come up with. Okay? So the last statement I've given you is, the thoughts freak me out. I never want to have to think about them again.
Okay, so you have to think of them. So consider this, though, that the thoughts that are freaking you out is only a way that you've been thinking now. There are a million other ways that you could have been thinking that aren't thinking about how to freak you out. So consider how many ways there are that you think that don't freak you out throughout the day. I'm sure when you wake up in the morning, there are no freaking out moments. During lunchtime, no freaking out moments. So there are certainly times in your life that you don't freak out when you have thoughts. So what makes those different to the ones you've got now?
Excellent. Beautiful. Can you hear that monologue right there?
Yes.
It makes sense, but it doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah, it did. Yeah, it makes it strangely throughout part of that. I was sort of when I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to see what happens and trot.
Yes.
And in that moment, it seemed perfectly sensible.
Now, what do you think that monologue is going to do to the unconscious moment?
Oh, it's gonna be there.
Exactly. So what we're basically doing right here is we're seeing the unconscious moment or the hypnotic cue in more layman's terms, and I'm grabbing hold of it and I'm feeding it. I'm not letting him escape. As soon as I start talking about spiders, as soon as I start talking about going outside, spiders dropping, I lose the unconscious moment.
Yeah.
The very fact he's given me something that logically doesn't make sense, which is, it's my thoughts I don't want. How can you not have thoughts? That doesn't make sense to me. I can't stop you having thoughts. It's impossible. And people might think, well, I'll get him to stop thinking about spiders. Okay. To do that, I need him to stop thinking altogether. It's impossible for me to take the phobia away. What I can do is have his thinking so altered, whether he thinks about spiders or not, other things will start to happen.
Yes.
Okay. And the great thing about his little hypnotic monologues and you using this little cool hypnotic language, and again, it's not even really hypnotic language, you listen back to it. I'm taking the very hot words or the words that made the unconscious moment in the first place, and I'm reorganizing them, resorting them, and giving them back to him.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see how that works?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's go with one more time. Let's have a look at someone who is has stage fright. Okay, that's all you know. Go ahead.
Okay, Scott. Thank you very much for coming in today. I see you've got. From my notes, I see you've got stage fright.
Yes.
In what way?